The yellow wallpaper. Scene 1. The room. The camera slowly reveals a modest, dimly lit room, its atmosphere heavy with silence. The walls are bare except for one striking detail, a peculiar yellow wallpaper that sprawls across every inch of the room, almost suffocating it. A sense of stillness hangs in the air. On the edge of the bed sits Jane, a woman in her late 20s. Her expression is vacant, distant, her eyes flickering nervously around the room. This is Jane. She wasn't always like this, once vibrant, full of energy. But something has shifted. She feels off, unwell. Her doctor, her husband, John, a physician, has prescribed complete rest. No excitement, no stimulation, just isolation in this room. With only the strange yellow wallpaper for company. Jane stares at the wallpaper, her eyes narrowing, her fingers twitching with a nervous energy. There's something unsettling about it. Is it the color, a sickly, faded hue, or the bizarre swirling pattern that seems to change with every glance? At first, it seemed ugly, but the longer she stares, the more it feels, alive. Scene 2. The observation. The camera cuts to Jane, sitting at a small desk, her pen scratching across paper. Her handwriting is erratic, frantic. Her gaze, however, often drifts to the wallpaper, drawn to it like a magnet. As days pass, Jane feels more and more confined. She cannot leave the room. She cannot do anything. Her mind begins to unravel, consumed by an obsession with the wallpaper. What she once thought was merely a distraction has become something darker. The camera shifts to Jane squinting, focusing intently on a particular section of the wallpaper. There, hidden in the chaotic design, she thinks she sees something. A figure. Her breath hitches as she leans closer. There's something behind it. Something moving. At night, the rustling grows louder. A faint scraping sound fills the silence. She looks again, her heart racing, and sees it. A woman. A woman trapped, struggling, crawling, desperately trying to escape. Scene 3. Her deterioration. Now Jane sits on the floor, inches from the wallpaper, her eyes glazed, as if hypnotized by it. Her whispering voice fills the room, soft and broken. The camera zooms in on her face, sweat dripping down her forehead, her expression wild, frenzied. John doesn't understand. He thinks she's getting worse, crazier. He insists she's imagining it, but Jane knows the truth. She feels her grip on reality slipping. It's the wallpaper, the woman trapped behind it. She has to free her. There is no other choice. John enters the room, a look of concern on his face. He sees Jane on the floor, her hand pressed to the wallpaper. John. Jane, what are you doing? You need to rest. You're only making things worse. Jane looks up at him, her eyes wide with terror, pleading. Jane. She's trying to get out, John. Don't you see her? The woman in the wallpaper. She's trapped. I need to help her. John stands frozen, confusion clouding his face. He doesn't know what to make of it. Scene 4. The descent. The camera shifts to Jane, now fully consumed by the wallpaper. Days blur into one another. She doesn't eat. She doesn't sleep. The only thing that matters is the woman in the wallpaper. The pattern warps, twists, grows even more chaotic as though it's alive, shifting in real time. The days drag on. Jane's mind bends and breaks. She begins to tear at the wallpaper, desperate to uncover the woman hidden within. She's convinced that if she can just peel enough of it away, the woman will be freed. Her hands tremble as they tear at the paper. The sound of ripping fills the silence. Her hands become raw, bleeding, but she doesn't stop. She can't stop. Scene 5. The reveal. The camera zooms in on Jane's face, her eyes wide, unblinking, wild. The room is littered with torn wallpaper, a mountain of scraps surrounding her. She stands, staring at the wall, fixated. And then, one night, after days of madness, it happens. She sees it, clearly. The woman. The woman isn't just behind the wallpaper. She is the wallpaper. Her body, her face, her hands, woven into the design, crawling, struggling. Jane isn't just observing her. She's becoming her. The woman is Jane. Jane slowly rises to her feet, a manic grin spreading across her face, her eyes unfocused as if she's lost to the madness. Jane, whispering, "I've got her out. I've got her out now." Scene 6, the final moment. The camera cuts to John entering the room, his face full of concern and shock as he surveys the devastation around him. John, "Jane, what have you done? You've gone too far." Jane steps out from behind the wall, moving slowly, deliberately. Her eyes now mirror the frantic, twisted expression of the woman in the wallpaper. Her hands twitch, her body sways unnaturally, but it's too late. Jane has crossed the line. She's no longer the woman trapped in the wallpaper. She is the woman. And now, there's no going back. Jane crawls across the floor, moving with an eerie, unsettling grace. She passes John, who stares at her in shock. She pulls herself along the floor, dragging her body across the pieces of torn wallpaper. The camera zooms out as Jane continues to move in circles, a low, almost guttural sound escaping her lips, repeating over and over. Jane, repeating, "I've got her out. I've got her out." Scene 7, the final shot. The camera pulls back even further, showing John standing in the doorway, watching his wife, now lost to madness. The wallpaper, now completely torn off, reveals a blank wall behind it. And in the end, there's nothing left but a woman who's vanished, who's become the very thing that once haunted her. The wallpaper was her prison, and now it's her freedom.